Welcome to Sculpture Studios. We're creating a piece of art now for a client called Wendy Freestone, who wanted to bring the concept of the company logo into the three-dimensional world and create a piece of sculpture that could be positioned at the entrance to the company building. The concept was two stones, one balanced precariously on top of the other, made from glass fibre. We would include internal metalwork for both overall support where the stones touch, and to allow the sculpture to be fixed securely into the ground. So we begin by transferring the original concept images that the client sent us onto transparent paper and through a projector, scaled up directly onto polystyrene. We cut the cubist stones using a handheld hot wire, and at this stage we kept the stones together just so we could keep an overall picture of the stones while it's being carved. The basic design from the side needs to be as accurate to the drawing as possible, but at the same time they needed to have a realistic feel three-dimensionally, so this meant we needed to create stones that weren't necessarily symmetrical on either side and had their own natural shape. So after finishing with the hot wire, Aden goes to work with the nail brushes, as you can see him doing here, to create a random feel to the shape of the stones. We then split the two stones apart and sanded them down in two separate units to create nice flat surfaces. We covered them in a protective sticky foil and gave them a sturdy few layers of glass fibre. This will create a nice solid shell that's weather resistant and perfect for outside use. Talk us through what's going on here, Kev.
Well, we've made two rocks. This is the smaller of the two. We've covered both of them in 3 layers of 2-ounce fiberglass. We've given that a quick rub down, and now we're covering them both with car body filler, which once that dries we'll then sand off and it'll give it a much smoother finish.
Thank you. We repeat the process of filling and sanding down quite a few times until we're happy that it has the texture that best suits the stone. The surface needs to be flat, but at the same time needs to have a residual texture that, along with the paintwork, will be more convincing that the stones are real. We give the stones a base layer of grey 2K primer, and this highlights any pitfalls in the shell that need retouching. Here are the stones all dry with their final coat of grey primer, and now that they're all sanded down to a degree where we're happy with the overall smoothness of the surface, we need to concentrate on the structural side of the sculpture. We clean up and key around the holes on both stones where they're going to touch, and need to map out the internal space for the metalwork. We sent a tracing of the design to Martin from Fine Limit Welding, who's done a lot of work with us in the past, and he's created the support that we fixed inside the sculpture and anchored into the ground. Aden then uses heated up metal to create a space inside the polystyrene so that it can accommodate the metalwork. The angle needs to be relatively straight to line up with the hole on the other side, so the pole fits up snugly and isn't able to move around much in the polystyrene. We then feed the metalwork all the way through, so it sticks out the other end where the small stone attaches, and here's Aden sanding the stone up for the first time on its support. It's suspended about a foot above the ground to allow for the metalwork depth, and he's just seeing how the angle looks. We compare the sculpture to the original image, as you can see here, once the second stone is placed on top, and we squidge it down temporarily to make sure that we have it in exactly the right position on the metalwork. We need to make sure that the stones are rotated around the pole in the correct place to make sure it's accurate to the image from side view. We keep the top stone suspended ever so slightly so that when it comes to laminating both the top and the bottom stone together, we make sure there's only the slightest gap between them and that they're just about touching, connected by the smallest amount of area possible. When we're happy with the positioning, we laminate the top of the smaller stone in place, and this stops it from being rotated and minimalises the chances of the pole moving whatsoever inside the polystyrene. We laminate the two stones together using glass fibre and let the join set before sanding it back to create a really tight seal, pretty much around the diameter of just the pole itself. And now it's time for the artwork. Wendy provided us with a small reference of the kind of stone look she wanted, so Aden replicates this flecked and speckled look with various brush, rough sponge and splatter methods. The pole is given a protective layer underneath that will prevent it rusting in the damp weather, and then we invite Wendy Freestone to take a look at the project. It's always rewarding for us to get a client's input and a client's reaction, as often they only see the project at the very beginning during the concept stages, and then see the finished result at the end of the whole process. Wendy mentioned she was initially quite apprehensive about what the overall shape of the stones and the artwork stone finish might look like, but after coming down and visiting the studio and seeing the finished stone for the first time in front of her, she was relieved to have chosen a company that can complete the work to the standard she was after. She kindly sent us a finished image of the sculpture, all set up on location, and we'd like to thank Wendy for entrusting Sculpture Studios with the project. Please feel free to leave any comments below and hit the subscribe button for our latest videos, like Sculpture Studios on Facebook, and for more of our work, visit sculpturestudios.co.uk. Thank you very much for watching.